SurveyMonkey thing to do for everyone. It will be both VA and non-VA, so everyone gets input into us directly, not just the VA, about how we can improve the program for next year. People will be trickling in and out all day long, so you're aware of that. We had as many as 16 here at one time yesterday, so be aware that folks do come and go. It cannot be helped given their work duties and so forth. These are the tweener slides that you'll see. A lot of those of you who weren't here yesterday, that Mark Johnson, stick up your hand, does. Thank you. And all of you have probably spoken to Barbara Giles in the back. Wave, Barbara. And that is our wonderful staff, along with Tressa. Did she go upstairs? Yes. Okay. Tressa Carr from the GREC, and Veronica Salazar, and a phenomenal planning committee to help make this umpteenth Summer Institute in Aging. I mean, I've lost count. We've been doing it for so long. It must be up to, what, 14 now or something? As wonderful as it is every year. And to take another couple of moments before we start the talk, I just wanted to tell you to be sure to be here on Thursday when Sarah Espinoza gives you her talk on frailty and the importance of exercise. For those of us who stopped exercising, the truth really is use it or lose it. I can only encourage exercise. It's the make yourself better for everything. Keep yourself from falling apart thing to do. All right, are we ready to start? Okay. Great. Thank you. Normally, when I give the talk on the Intro to Aging, it's a lot of demographics from both Texas and both the full United States issue, and it's a very difficult talk to enjoy because it's statistics. And while statistics can be very exciting for some people, it's not exciting for everybody. So this year, I'm chair of the Aging Texas Well Advisory Committee to the Texas Department of Aging and Disability Services. And last year, we had our second Aging Texas Well Indicator Survey conducted, and thousands of seniors around the state were interviewed. And I thought, rather than give the traditional lecture, everybody knows that the population is aging. Everybody knows we're going to have up to 91 million people, perhaps by 2050, depending on which demographer you believe. And that what in fact used to be the case, a couple of years ago I was telling everybody, well, the fastest group that's aging in the country, the largest number of people in that age group is surpassing every other age group, and that's the over 85-year-olds. They're growing the fastest. Well, now it's the 93-year-olds. How many people saw the 60 Minutes episode last month that was done with the professor from the University of California at Irvine, who's been doing the aging research study on the retirement community, and it's all these people who have lived to be over 93. And what is it that's keeping them alive? Anybody see that? Exercise. Doesn't have to be a lot. It can be 15 minutes broken up over the course of a day to end up being 45, maybe 3 days a week, maybe 4, 5 if you're really good. Glass of wine. Any alcohol really does it, but the research shows, but they didn't want to say that because they didn't want to encourage too much drinking. So a glass of wine. So you've got moderate physical activity, a glass of wine, a social support network. So in the case of these folks, it was they were living in this retirement community and had lots of friends, lots of activities and things to do, and a good diet. Vegetarians did really well. You have to be a little overweight, not too skinny. So that was the results in a nutshell of some of the research that's being conducted. They didn't do sex, but they did highlight a couple in their 90s who had a new relationship and are, quote, very affectionate. So use it or lose it. All right. Sophia Loren, and everybody knows who Sophia Loren is, has said there is a fountain of youth. It is your mind, your talents, the creativity you bring to your life, and the lives of people you love. When you learn to tap this source, you will truly have defeated age. So what this is the slide of the thousands of folks that were interviewed. 742 between 60 and 64, 1,266 between 65 and 74, as you can see, 801 between 75 and 84, and 219 over 85. So that's pretty good, really. And then by race and ethnic status, white, black, Hispanic, and folks who identified themselves as other, which included, of course, Orientals, Pacific Islanders, etc. And looking at gender and marital status, you can see in the survey there were 2,039, significantly more women than men in the study, but for the first time they weighted the data. They've never done that before. So this year's results are truly much more reliable. By marital status, 1,545 were married, a number divorced, as you can see, widowed, a lot were widowed, separated, or never married. That surprised me. There were 129 in this group who were never married, or a member of an unmarried couple. One thing I'm noticing more and more is that our seniors, in order to survive, especially in a tough economy, when they want to get married, they aren't getting married because they don't want to lose Social Security. A couple, there's actually a lack of incentive when you're older to be married because you lose Social Security. You don't get as much as you do as two individuals. My 87-year-old aunt and her high school boyfriend have just gotten back together, and they made this huge decision to not get married. They're going to tell all the doctors that they're married so that one or the other of them will be able to be there and not be kicked out for not being immediate family. And they figured, who cares? It's just, we're not going to lose our Social Security. I thought that was amazing. Because that was a generation in their 80s, you didn't live together, you didn't have sex before marriage, all that stuff. So here they are. And then annual household income, and you can see that there are a lot of folks living on only Social Security at lower income levels. And not a whole lot of folks making a whole lot of money either. 10% over 100,000. And education level, you can see, again, it's nice that folks, most of them, at least have a high school education, and more than ever are having college educations or parts of programs such as technical or vocational school, or even some college. That's growing. And you'll see, obviously, it's one of the things we hear about is that as the people now, the boomers are aging, this is a more educated group, and they want to have much more decision-making capability in their own health care. We'll see that more and more. Weighted data, as I mentioned. It was weighted to match the race, ethnic, and gender composition of the actual over 60 population. Therefore, the findings are more representative of the condition in the actual population than in previous surveys. That's exciting news. And the tables and charts I'm going to show you are some of the selected findings. There's a lot of data that have been analyzed. And if you go to the Aging Texas Well website, you can see more of this information. And they're writing a big report, which will also end up on the website. Okay, so everybody always wants to know, do people have health insurance and do they have a regular doctor? And it's nice to see that the vast majority, almost everybody, certainly do. Do they have dental insurance? One of the biggest complaints we get is dental insurance. It's expensive, or it doesn't exist, or you can't get it. I will let you know so you can tell your patients and think about it for yourselves as you age, that AARP, we worked for a long time with Delta Dental to get them to finally go with AARP, and AARP does provide a good dental insurance program through Delta Dental. So for those of you, once you retire and can't keep that insurance, you have an option. All right. I've seen the national data, and we pretty much in Texas parallel the national data except for diabetes, of course, where we are way over the top. But 61.7% of the elderly have high blood pressure, more than half have arthritis, 29%, almost a third, have diabetes and know it, and we all know that there's at least as many who have it and don't know it. Heart disease, angina or heart failure, almost 22%, depression, 19%, which if you think about it, is not tremendously high. Everybody assumes old people are all depressed or they're all isolated, and that's really not true. But 19%, when you're looking at 35 million seniors, can be a significant number. And it is the #1 undiagnosed psychogeriatric illness. So there's enough of it out there. COPD, emphysema, chronic bronchitis, and asthma, over 17%, and eye issues such as macular degeneration, glaucoma, and cataract, in 22%. And that, I thought, was also lower, so I was happy to see that. Osteoporosis and brittle bones, 16.7%. Why is that? Why is that number so low? Because there are fewer European Americans. European Americans have higher rates of osteoporosis. Cancer, 15.3%, and anxiety or panic disorder, which also often goes along with depression, 12.3%. Arthritis by gender, you can see that male have significantly less arthritis. Heart disease by gender, where males have significantly more than women. And diabetes by race and ethnic status, Hispanics, obviously, as we know, because they have the highest Native American admixture in their genetic makeup, have the most. And remember, you're looking at data, it's probably twice this amount. Any mental health diagnosis, and 75% do not. 25% almost of the group surveyed do. Mental health diagnosis by gender, women have significantly more. Why do you think that might be? I think there are a lot of women out there living alone because their husbands have died because men don't live as long? Probably. Speaking of which, 70.4% do not live alone. So that puts away all that view that old people are lonely and isolated and have no one around them. Only about 30% have that situation. The question is, how active are they and how involved with their surroundings? Again, females have a significantly higher number living alone because their spouses have died, then remarry. Rig Veda says, eat nutritious food and exercise regularly to have sound health. How many people ate 5+ servings of fruits and vegetables? Only 14%. Why? Why do people get diabetes? Carbs. Are carbs cheap?
Yes.
Are fruits and vegetables expensive?
Yes.
And that's the answer. If it weren't for the fact that the TV set and the refrigerator are so far apart, some of us would not get any exercise at all, says Joey Adams, the comedian. Physical activity. People who exercise 3 to 5 times a week, about almost 38%, 1,151 of them, and some, 909 every day. That's unbelievable. But if they're retired and they want to stay active, they want to live a long life, why not? 3 to 5 times a month, once a month or less, never, or don't exercise for health reasons. And that's the saddest group. People who have, the folks who have cancer, who physically can't, people who have heart disease, emphysema, who have a hard time. But there's some things they can do. They can walk, even if it's slow walking, even if it's chair exercise. There are a lot of resources out there now. Body mass index. Normal, 25.8%, overweight, 37.1%, obese, 35.6%, and 1.5% underweight. So who's going to live longest? The normal and the overweight. Because that's the research that's coming out of UC Irvine. Do not get to be a skinny old person. You need to be a little overweight. Why? Why? We're not talking obese, we're not talking fat, we're talking a little overweight, like 5-10 pounds. Why? It's your reserve. One of the things that happens as we age, Dr. Parker will tell you about that in the next talk, is that we lose our reserve capacity. If you have a little extra weight, you get sick. It's a lot easier to come back from being ill if you have some extra weight to lose because you're sick without making yourself frail. Overweight or obese, too many. That's why we have so much diabetes. Tobacco use, the single most preventable cause of death and disease in the United States, and still remains so. Women's rates of lung cancer are now almost approaching men. Why? More women are smoking than ever before. Used to be, it wasn't polite for women to smoke or chew gum. Now they can do everything. It's the price you pay for feminism, I guess. Approximately 443,000 Americans die from tobacco-related illnesses every year, and tobacco use costs us $193 billion a year in direct medical expenses and lost productivity. So if you look at our group in Texas who answered the survey, you can see more than half never smoked, because that younger group now is getting older. And you know, as VA people, that there are 1,000 veterans dying every day, World War II veterans. Those were the smokers. And behind them, there are still a lot of smokers, as you know, but it's decreasing. 11% still smoke, 33 former smoke quit. So that's wonderful. My dad was a World War II veteran and never smoked while he was in the war. They got cigarettes in their rations. He gave them to the smokers. He never smoked. Came home, started to smoke. Smoked for a while, and then the commander of his ship, my father was a pharmacist, came into the pharmacy with a stoma and one of these sneaking devices. And Dad knew what had happened to him, and Dad that very day took his pack of cigarettes and threw them in the trash and never smoked again. That was 1951. Current smokers, vast majority, statistically, males. Alcohol and drugs cause you a problem in the past year was one of the questions. And no, the vast, again, almost 100%. So very few problems caused by drinking or drugs. Of course, that was 0.3%. 0.3% of 71 million, 35 million, 40 million now. It's a lot of people. While disability among the oldest Americans, 85 plus, continued to decline between 2000 and 2008, disability trends have held steady between the ages of 65 to 84 and have increased for those approaching late life, early folks who are aging into their senior years now, who are 55 to 64. Well, and the reason people are now living to be, 93 and up, is because disability in the over 85-year-old group is declining. Interesting. Too sick to perform usual activities at least 5 days in the past month. A lot less than 5, and only 12.9%, 5 or more. So, again, people are doing usual activities. Mostly female, and there is a slight statistical difference. Too sick to perform by race, ethnic status, Hispanics, the most. Why? Diabetes and its sequelae. So what are the sequelae of diabetes? Heart disease, stroke, okay. Do they use a cane walker or a scooter to get around? 23% did, it's under a third. 76.4% do not. It makes me wonder how many people are prescribed these unnecessarily. I know there was a big stink about that with the scooter store out in New Braunfels, and the feds came in and closed the place down. I had a friend who worked there who lost her job, and I don't know, are they back yet? Does anybody know? No, they're not back yet. They may have had the socks knocked out from under them. But it does make you wonder, you know, how much, exercise is so important, how much people are pushing or buying into, you know, about the gullibility as cognition declines for some folks. They're become very gullible. If there are people taking advantage of that, it would be nice to know, and of course we'll never know, how many of them truly need it. Females use the devices more than males. That may just be because there were more of them living, but then again the data was weighted, so it can't be that. So it just may be that they're a lot frailer. And even in spite of all the diabetes and the amputations and everything else, it was Black American Texans who use the most. And there is a statistically significant difference in that group from the whites, the non-Hispanic whites or Hispanics. And 33.8% of the other ethnic groups are close. There is not a statistically significant difference between their mobility device use and Black people's. Social engagement. Social activities and social support are positively associated with survival and also with better cognitive functioning of older adults. So it's important to be active and to visit with other people in some kind of setting. It has also been found to be negatively associated with both onset and progression of disability, even after adjustment for health status. That's huge. Social engagement helps keep your function going. Physical, not just mental. That's wonderful. Why? People want you to do things with them. You can't sit around. You have to get up and go out and do stuff. Talk to family, friends, neighbors on the phone once a week or more. More than 93% do, and only 6% less than once a week. We were sharing stories about our children this morning before the course started, and some of the folks in the group have children who are now in their early 20s or late teens who, you know, the age where they think they know everything, and they're not talking to their parents very often. So I devised something with my 27-year-old daughter recently. I have a former colleague who posts stuff on Facebook all the time. Every day she has these phenomenal, upbeat, inspirational messages, and you can do this, and you're wonderful, and you can do that. And you look at that stuff in the morning, by the time you leave the house, you're feeling pretty good. So they're all in photos. They're posted as photos. So my phone is now full of all of these little great sayings and photos, and I'm sending one to my daughter every day. And you know what? They don't want to talk on the phone. They text you. They text you back, thanks, love you, Mom. Make my day. Communication, that's where it is. How many talk to family, friends, neighbors in person, not just on the phone, at least once a week? Once a week or more? Again, a very high number, 88.5%, and only 11% less than once a week. And those are the folks who are more socially isolated, and I'll bet you anything, those are the folks who may have cognitive decline issues and health issues. The internet is a powerful tool to obtain info, stay connected, and relieve feelings of social isolation. Many activities such as shopping, banking, trading, bill paying are done online. And so we want to see older people going ahead and doing that. Many years ago, we had a project going with the University of Texas Pan American down in Edinburgh, and we had a project going where they were training seniors how to use computers, people who had never touched a computer in their lives. And you look at some of the senior centers now, the Bob Ross Center right over here behind the VA has a room full of computers that you sign up before you go in. If you don't own one, you can't afford it, you can come in, activities, socialization, good things, and use their computers. So it's very much encouraged. And so we're finding that more and more seniors are using computers all the time. Email and internet use, if nothing else. So you have once a week or less, more than half. You've got 56%. 3 times a week, almost half, 43.6%. That's pretty good. That is really pretty good. 3+ times a week, again, non-Hispanic whites, significantly higher numbers, and the other ethnic group and race groups. Why is it that Hispanics have the lowest? What have we just read about? What we heard about in the slides? We know this group has higher diabetes and infirmities, and they have the lowest income, right? And if they don't know that there's a senior center to go to, or can't get to it, or have somebody drive them, or can't walk because they have a diabetic foot amputation, are they going to be able to use the internet or email? So we have disparities not just in healthcare, we have disparities in socialization. Loneliness, is it a problem? Only 6.7% that it said it was a major problem. Minor problem or no problem, over 93%. And again, Hispanic Texans have significantly higher loneliness as a major problem for all the reasons we know. So one of the other things that tells us, and this survey did not just do city, this was across rural areas as well. So it tells us we have a big job in front of us to get these folks unsocially isolated, especially where they live, which could be in barrios, it could be in rural areas, it could be in the inner city, it could be any place. But there's a lot that we could do to improve the situation. And the purpose of this survey is to do just that. The Department of Aging and Disability Services will begin programs to address a lot of these issues. So volunteering in the community, Khalil Gibran, and everybody knows who he is, said, "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give." It's one of the things I like about living in San Antonio. A lot of people here truly give. So how many seniors volunteer regularly? More than a third, but not as many as you would hope. 65% don't. And again, that's probably an issue of access, don't you think? One of the things a friend of mine thought of doing, he wants to set up a special program for seniors who are isolated to give them a email internet buddy of another senior who's not isolated. So it's somebody who lives in one of these counties up in the Panhandle where the average age is 86 and there are 16 people who live in the whole county, where they can be connected to someone through the internet who will check on them every day, visit with them, talk to them if they can't do the phone or their cell phone doesn't have minutes or whatever. If we can get folks use of a computer, that really is a good thing. Religious activity. Spirituality and religion act as therapy in believers, while regular attendance at religious gatherings builds social support systems that help build strong social networks. And a lot of churches and synagogues in San Antonio have really begun a lot of programs to reach out to seniors who are isolated at home. Participate in religious activities, 73% do, 26.8% do not. By gender, significantly more women than men do. It still looks pretty close when you look at it. It's more than half, more than a third, pretty good. More than 3/4 for the women. By race and ethnic status, Black Americans not San Antonio, throughout Texas, have significantly more religious participation than any other ethnic group. And everybody else is about even. Employment status. How many seniors are working? Full-time, 13%. It's a lot. Part-time, 7.9%. Looking or planning to look, 2.7%. Couldn't find a job, probably because they were older and they were facing discrimination, and stopped looking. Retired, not working, 71%. Does not have or want a paying job, 4%. That's interesting, because retired and not working, 71.4%, but yet only 4% don't want a paying job. Tells you everybody who retired is bored now and they want to work. So that's something else to think about. Make a plan for your own years of retirement when you finally boot it out. What do you want to do? Financial preparedness. 78% say they're very or somewhat prepared. Wow, that's pretty good. But yet, how many of them are living on Social Security? That's not a lot of financial preparedness. Somewhat, we're very unprepared, more than 21%. So that's huge. By race and ethnic status, again, non-Hispanic whites have the highest financial preparedness, and the other group behind that, still not as high, and not Hispanic whites and blacks are about the same. Homeownership. Susie Orman, everybody knows who Susie Orman is, right? The financial guru from TV. It is called the American dream. Owning a home is, quote, the keystone of wealth, both financial affluence and emotional security. So how many people own their primary residence? Over 85%. 14% say no. They're probably renting. Again, non-Hispanic whites have the statistically significant highest number living in a house, but everybody else is doing pretty well. Satisfaction with the ability to get around town, 94% were very or somewhat satisfied, which means that pretty mobile people really answered the survey, or they have access to people who will drive them. So the question again is, can their religious affiliations help them get involved with doing more volunteer work? There's a lot of room, wiggle room to make things change. And unfortunately, 6%, 194 of our 3,008 respondents in this question were very dissatisfied with their ability to get around. Transportation continues to be the #1 issue everywhere in the country for seniors, getting to their health care, getting to do anything around the house. I'm not driving anymore, how am I going to get there? Driving around town. This is good news. Today's drivers over 70 are less likely to be involved in crashes than previous generations, and are less likely to be killed or seriously injured if they do crash, according to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. That is a huge change. 5 years ago, I was standing up here saying, yeah, it's all the old people who are in crashes, and they're more frail, and if the airbag goes off because they're set not to be used with seat belts, the airbag will kill them. So since 1997, the fatal crash rate of over 70-year-olds declined at a faster pace than 35 to 54-year-olds. They are driving safer and much longer distances than ever before. Some of that is due to what kinds of programs that are out there. What does AARP have? 55 Alive. It is a driver improvement program for seniors. Anybody 55 and up can go, improve your reflexes, relearn the rules of the road. We found out, I was on the governor's task force on the older driver a number of years ago when Bush was governor, and all we found out was if you increased the signs on the highway by about 3 to 4 inches, just made the letters on the signs that much larger, it equalized the braking reflex rate of seniors. So they've done that in Texas. We made that recommendation, and they have done that. So that's why there's fewer crashes in the over 70-year-olds here, even though the numbers are growing. That's one of the reasons. So who has not limited their driving? 71.8%. And who's limited? 28%. So that's pretty significant. 2,048 of the 2,900 some odd not limited their driving. And they're not getting in wrecks. Wow. Independence.
Can I add something?
Please.
You know what, I think, because I see a lot of the geriatric drivers on the road, and they're making these wide turns, and I think more people are kind of watching out for them.
Because there's so many.
There are a lot of them, and they're driving slower also, and a
Yes.
lot of them are not on the
Right
highway.
side lane.
You know, and so they're adding some precautions themselves, which is really good, but you really
You're
have
still
to-
seeing a lot of crazy old people out there driving. Well, you know what? We need to start sending them to 55 Alive. And Alabama's Institute on Aging at the University of Alabama has started a program for mild cognitively impaired individuals to improve their driving. It's working. Mild cognitive impairment. We're not talking dementia here. Mild cognitive impairment. They're improving their driving through this training program. The NIA is very happy because they funded it.
That's in Alabama, you said?
Yes, University of Alabama Institute on Aging, or Center for Aging. So 79% of the men have not limited their driving. Provides regular unpaid care. So there are seniors caring for other people. No, 84%, but 15.6% are. So that's a significant group. Providing it by gender, of course, females significantly more, provision of that. Aware of programs that support people over 60? Almost 72% were not. That says an awful lot. Again, the Department of Aging and Disability Services take this to heart. They have started these resource centers now. We have one here in San Antonio. They're piloting a number of them around the state. There are about 7 of them now. And they are here to get the word out to seniors about the resources that are available to them. And then there were a lot of references. Any questions? If you have any questions, Dr. Mandal will be happy to answer them. And I can answer what I know. Yes?
I just had a comment when you were talking about the social, I can't remember, social, you made reference to the social dynamics. You know, a lot of people were living alone and things like that. You know, I'm wondering how it's going to really change with this next generation that's coming up.
Well, people are living longer. We know that. And so men are all the way up to almost 79 years of age, and Dr. Parker can tell you some more about this. And we're finding from that research study at UC Irvine, right, what were the issues? Exercise, moderate exercise, not heavy duty stuff, right, 3 times a week. You don't have to do it all at once. If you're going to do a 45-minute session, you can spread your 15 minutes over the day, a glass of wine, social activity, right, and eating decent food and being a tiny bit overweight. You'll live longer. That's what this generation's doing. So there'll be a lot fewer folks alone. It'll be fun to watch, because guess what? We are them. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your attention so far this morning. Don't forget to fill out your evaluations, fill out your personal profile that also was given to you in your packet this morning or yesterday, if you came in yesterday. We need that information. Why? Because our Geriatric Education Center is federally funded. And in order to keep our funding, we have to give reports on numbers. And we have to give reports on demographics. And we have to give reports on jobs. So we need you to fill out your personal profile. Please, please, please. So, more